Good evening. I'm here to talk tonight about the DeBry deck, the Black Tarot, finally. I've finally gotten the time to sort of look at it and go through it and get my thoughts together. I've actually filmed this once. Well, I started 2 times. Once I looked through just a few of the cards and realized it was going to take a little bit more thought as opposed to just being able to glance. It's one of those decks that you have to sit with the cards a little bit to sort of start grasping what they're saying to you. It's in a tuck box. The tuck box is of a good quality. It's, as far as tuck boxes go, this one is sturdier than most. It has a rose petal fill. And as the Black Tarot, it is by DeBry. It's funny too, because when I looked up their website the first time, they actually have a little voice button that you play and for the pronunciation of the names, and they do say DeBry. So I found that interesting. But they do all of their cardstock on 350 GSM is what they use for all their decks, I meant to say. And they use original art. So I will readjust the camera here and we will take a look at what we have. So the deck I like because it comes with this card, and this is the artist. She was born December 24th, 95. She's Russian, but Victoria Ivanova. And it has her astrological sign on here. It is Cancer. I'm sorry, Capricorn. That's my mistake. I'm having, my eyes are tired, and so reading. But she does have an Instagram account, and that is blackart.victoria. And then her information would also be on the DeBry website at debry.com. The guidebook is nice. It has that sort of matte feel to it. And it's not cheap. I mean, you can tell. I mean, the paper is papery. It's not like magazine quality, but it's nicely done. And their decks are written by Philip Young. He has his doctorate in, I believe, literature. And so these are very well written. This is an RW-based deck. And it just starts off, it has basic information. 3 card spread, spreading the cards, tips, becoming familiar, looking at the pictures. It discusses a little bit of using intuition mixed with the readings. So the thing I like about this book, though, that they're including with this deck, is they give you the regular sort of normal, it's worded very well, the RWS information, the standard tarot meaning. And then beneath that, they give you the symbolism of the particular card from this deck. And just to give you an example, this is the Fool. The figure is dancing and leaping through the air while a skeletal animal watches from below. The dancing energy represents the Fool's carefree nature and exuberance for life. So, and we'll stop here. And with the book, it just goes through. It does have a picture of the majors, and then when it gets to the minors, it just has a little bit less written, but it still has the meaning and the symbolism for each card and a smaller version of the card. The only thing I would change about the book, if it were me, and I have no issues with the book whatsoever, everything was written really well, but here, because the writing on the cards is not so evident, you really need to know what suit you're on. So to do that, you have to actually find the page. For me, anyway, maybe you could do it once you glanced at it and know what you're looking at from memory. But I have to find this, the Suit of Cups, because when I turn the page, unless I have an image like the Ace where there's evidently a cup, an image like this, I can barely see the cups on this image. You can see them on the card. But so if I were opening up the book, I might miss it if I were trying to flip quickly through. So I think it would be helpful if it just had like an image of a cup or the word cup or both, just something simple at the top here. And I don't think that would add any printing cost to it or enough to make a difference in the cost of the deck. And just that would just be for ease of use of the deck. But the guidebook is very good. I do like it. And so this is what I would use as a shadow work deck. Let me pause here, get a little bit more light because these are going to be dark, and I'll be back. Okay, now we're ready to go. I think we can see a little better now. Let me see if I can adjust this camera a bit. There we are. Okay, so we have the Fool, and I'm going to lift this up and then I'll hold the cards up so you can see them. You see this, it's almost like a moon, and I think it is the moon, but then he's full of light and energy, and he's bringing his light into the darkness. I'm not really, this would have to hit me in the reading, and a lot of these are going to be like that. You're going to look at the card and you're just flipping through it like this. You may not pick up anything, but if I were to read this in a reading, I'd be like, he is full of light and surrounded by darkness, but what areas of darkness can he bring light to? So it would be our beginning, our shadow work. What light are we bringing to the dark corners of ourselves to make discoveries? The Magician, he is in shadow, he is in darkness, but he has the power to command the light. He is sort of a balance between the dark and the light. It gives me that feeling of as above, so below, because he's the connection between the two, bringing the light into the dark. This is the High Priestess. She is wearing sort of a cloak. So this part of her is hidden. We see this part of her in light. Her face is partly shadowed. So what is hidden here? What is lit? What is dark? Once again, this play on light again. And these will just be very, very intuitively read. And I could see these being very good for a shadow work deck. Do you have a deck that you like to use for shadow work? Would you, if you'd like to mention that in the comments, let us know. Does this remind you? I find this to be very unique artwork for like the Empress. This is a child in the womb. This looks like her arm. But I think it's interesting where the child is between her head and her torso. It's not in a traditional placement, of course. But then I did read the guidebook on this one because I was completely stumped. And she is going to eat the light, absorb the light to nourish her child. So maybe this would speak to the inner child. What nourishment does our inner child need? What light do we need to bring and give to our inner child to mend those wounds, to bring completeness to the cycle that exists within us? The Emperor, we see his light not as brightly shining, but it's not as targeted either. His is more dispersed throughout his entire body, whereas hers is focusing on nourishing the infant. So his is more dispersed. He looks like he's holding almost an Atlas pose, the balance between the dark and the light maybe. The Hierophant, his head almost looks as if a couple of things. One, is his head here and bent down, or is his head here and sort of open and apart, and the light is within there? So it's, once again, one of those things that you would need to read, but he is also struggling with the light and the dark. Maybe this is the light he contains within him, and it's too much to contain. The lovers, where their union is in their pose, is light, surrounded by darkness, but in their union they find light. The Chariot looks as if he is headed toward the light, but what path did the Chariot take to get there? Did it come through these dark vortexes and have to follow this sort of meandering path to get to the outer rim of this vortex, to go to the light? What dark places did they have to travel? I find this deck, and as I say, I did look through these, and I did read some of the guidebook, not all the guidebook. This one I know strength. This one, it gives you the hint of a standard RWS deck because of the eye teeth here, that the flames are what they are, but they look like the mouth of a lion or a tiger or a cat, and she is in the middle, but she is not, according to the guidebook, and this is one where I looked at it at first as she was holding the flames apart, and that could still be intuitively how I read it sometimes, but also this is one where the guidebook says that she is the connection between the above and below. So by standing in the gap, she is connecting the two, which I could also see. So what connections do I need to make between the dark and the light in my life? Or what light do I use to keep the darkness at bay by standing in the gap between the light and the dark? Lots of different ways you could read that. The Hermit is beautiful. Did he go here and spend time alone and spend all this time developing himself, enlightening himself, and now he's coming out to share that light so it can rain down? Or is this the trail he traveled to protect his light, to go into here to make it brighter so that it can hold up against the dark? Just really interesting cards. This, to me, the Wheel of Fortune, I think intentionally it looks like an eye. I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to be, but the planets in alignment. Once again, we talk about the energies of the planets. I've read some of that. I understand a little bit of it, but not completely. It's not a part of my practice now, but I do love learning about things of that nature. But how do these align? It talks to me of orbits and traveling and circling, and where do we end up in that cycle? So once again, that's complete intuition. Now this one, the Justice card, I did read the guidebook. When I first looked at this, I did see a hand and the light and the dark and the balance and justice, and said, oh, well, keeping the balance between. But then I looked and I thought, well, maybe this is supposed to be an eyes are closed, and this teardrop here, if you can see that's a teardrop, is sort of makes the bridge of a nose. So I sort of see a face here with the eyes and the bridge and the brow here, and maybe this eye was the third eye, and maybe the balancing was bringing some sort of pain out from the third eye. And then I read the book, and this is justice. This is the just struggling to balance the light and dark, and it doesn't end. There's no rest for justice. There is a constant weighing of the light against the dark, and the exhaustion, the buildup, the weight of having to always carry this burden of balancing is what brought the tears from the eye. And I've just found that fascinating. The hangman, he came out of this darkness and suspended himself here to have a clear view of the light, to just absorb that light. And maybe he'll stay there until that light is able to penetrate him and penetrate his darkness. I say him because I'm talking about, if it were me. Of course, this is unintelligible as to any sex, so it could represent any one of us, regardless of representation. So if I say he or him, just know it's because I'm looking at the cards through a lens of myself, and it's not something I'm trying to layer on there. This is the Death card. This is, once again, one that a lot of these are going to be intuition-based, and I'm not going to try to explain how I would see everyone because, like right now, I don't know how I would see this one, but I know if it came up in a reading, as well as I've been able to intuitively pull meaning out of some of the other cards, that this one would come out. Even if I had to let it sit and meld for a little bit in my mind, it would meld. I just got through watching a Star Trek episode. Even though it might take a little bit for it to gel in my mind, it would, I'm sure, come to me. Temperance. The Devil. The Tower. The Star. That is a great star. Just look at the light emanating from that moment where the light bursts forth and it's coming out. The moon, the different phases. What phase are you in? How much darkness, how much lightness is available to you in the moment you're in? The sun has this feeling of a lunar eclipse. Even though the darkness is there, there's still light to be had. Judgment. Ooh, looks to me like a hand reaching out. And I can't tell if those are hands reaching down. It's just very interesting. The World. This is an egg hatching. The light coming out or going into it. Light swirling around it, light and dark. The Ace of Cups. Two of Cups. Unless something just strikes me at this point, I'll probably just go through the cards at this moment, because I think they are going to be so unique for each one of us. But I will say I do like this deck, the Four. I haven't done a lot of shadow work, but I think this is a deck that I could begin that practice with. Three of Cups. Oh, Five of Cups, I'm sorry. Five of Cups, look at that reach. Six of Cups. And here is the journey, or the image is in the globe, or the reflection. Seven of Cups. Eight of Cups. Running across the water. Nine of Cups. Almost feels like you're getting closer to an enlightenment moment. It's getting brighter and brighter. And then finally the Ten of Cups, the completion. Yep. It's beautiful. That progression. The Page of Cups. It's a mirror person. The Knight of Cups. This is beautiful. He's riding his horse across the water. His shadow is there, but he's surrounded by light. This is really impressive artwork. It's very unique. And I think we're very lucky to have this deck. And as I said, DeBry uses a 350 GSM cardstock. It's a matte finish, this particular deck. It's black edged. Just look at this. This is beautiful. It's black edged. And it has, it's not a rough feeling, but it feels like it's going to last. I mean, it feels sturdy. Now that'll be the test of time if you hand over hand shuffle, something like that. That would be the test, but it just, and it snaps back. Beautiful. Queen. King of Cups. And Swords. Ace of Swords. Two of Swords. Balancing on two blades. Stuck between a decision. Three of Swords. I love this Three of Swords because it's not, well, one, it's not a heart being stabbed, but it shows how this person has just been torn into over whatever has happened. But regardless of the damage, regardless of the shadow around and within, the light is at the center of their being. And it's reaching in to find that light regardless of what you've been through. The Four of Swords. Resting, waiting. The Five of Swords. The head has been replaced with a sword, sharp-edged. That could mean so many things. Thoughts are cutting, your tongue is cutting, you carry a blade in your mind, so you're on guard all the time. 6. Seven of Swords. I like this one because he's hiding it behind his back. What are you hiding? What pain, what darkness are you hiding behind your back? One way you could look at it is how I looked at it. Excuse me. The Eight of Swords. Prisoner of your own devices. 9. Sort of a typical nightmare, just lost in your own vortex of thoughts. 10. Page of Swords. Mostly in darkness, but beginning to bring the light, emitting the light, sending the light. Knight of Swords. This almost looks it's not really looks like a horse. It almost looks sort of, I don't know if I can tell what sort of creature. I started to say a dragon, but I don't think so. But it's just the Queen of Swords. I find that intriguing. This one would have to hit me in the moment and give me thought. King of Swords. He looks like he means business. Ace of Spheres. Two of Spheres. And you still get the feeling of this circular motion the two usually has. It's very nicely done. Three of Spheres. Balancing is really more of a 2 to me, but the 3 and his partners there. I think 4, holding on to what he's got. 5, almost looks as if a meteor sort of crashed, and there's spikes and debris coming up. 6 of Spheres. 7. 8 of Spheres. 9 of Spheres. 10 of Spheres. The Page of Spheres. It almost looks as if where his head would be is an antennae of light emitting. I don't know. Knight of Spheres. This is beautiful. I love these court cards that she's done. Well, I like all the cards, but the court cards especially strike me as Queen of Spheres. It looks as if she's actually part of a tree, or she is the tree. Has roots branching out. The King of Spheres as well. Nicely done. The Ace of Wands. Two of Wands. Just beginning his journey. Starting to look. The 3 of Wands. The 4 of Wands. Now this is interesting because the 4 of Wands, you typically have the 4 wands, and it's like you're being welcomed back into a group or back to the community. This is the way I'm reading it is I'm going to climb the steps into the light. I'm being welcomed into the light. I'm being shown a path out of my darkness to the light, or to bring light to my dark. 5 of Wands. This is total conflict between dark and light. What's the struggle? That would be something I'd have to answer in a moment. 6 of Wands. 7 of Wands. Look at the light emitting from her. I will say this is a very non-specific deck, and I think that's helpful for a lot of people. King of Wands. There are certain cards, it's definitely masculine or feminine, but a lot are not. 8 of Wands. Beams of light traveling. Traveling on or chasing after the light. The 10 of Wands. The Page of Wands. Whoa, look at the light behind him. This is, it doesn't do it justice on the phone. You have to see it to see there is this definite and it feels like there's light coming off the card. Knight of Wands. Queen of Wands. I've never been a shadow deck person. But this one I think I'm going to work with the King of Wands. Well, that is the Black Tarot from DeBry. I finally got around to making a video. I love these backs. I was watching Showcase today on the Hermit's Cave. He and Cheryl were on, and they do their quick run throughs, and they did this. And she said that this looks like oil mixed with water on the back, and she's absolutely right. It does. A beautiful deck, beautiful cardstock. Now I will say this, because I have made some comments about cardstock. And Simon said this today, that cardstock is subjective, and it really is. So I'm going to try to be not so opinionated in my views. But I like this cardstock, which means that some of you won't, because it is, if you are a riffle shuffler, this one will riffle shuffle, but it's thick. So it would be difficult. I got the cards turned around, but I'm just going to do this for an example. For some of you who have smaller hands, or maybe you have an arthritis. I'm starting to have arthritis, so I don't shuffle like this, because if I do this 3 or 4 times, my joints will hurt in my fingers. But this deck especially, it is a little stiff. It is pliable, but because it is a thicker cardstock, if you like to riffle shuffle, it might give you pause. It doesn't give me pause, because I do like to hand over hand shuffle. This is how I shuffle, and it does like this. Now, because the cardstock is matte, a few of the cards will clump together, but what I have found is that with use, and it doesn't take long, they more and more go into each other. And I find that's true with glossier decks too. Now, the same can be said for riffle shuffling. If you begin and you cut it in half and do quarter decks, then I guess these are my deck tips. But then you're going to be able to riffle shuffle. And if you do that over the course of time, and every deck will be different, so I'm not going to say an estimate, but if you just do this and you riffle shuffle, then over time they're going to become more pliable. You're going to break them in, they're going to become looser, and you'll be able to do just fine with half the deck instead of quarters. But if you really like a deck, let me say it this way. If I really like a deck, if I like the artwork, if I like the cardstock, if I like, and it doesn't have to tick all the boxes, but if I like enough about a deck, I'll get it. And then I worry about shuffling later. And I did that with the Four Feathers Tarot, because if you're all familiar with the Medieval Feathers Tarot. Medieval Feathers Tarot. And that deck is not only larger, but it is thick, it is chunky, and it is not easy to shuffle. But over time, I've gotten to where I've practiced, and I shuffle it upright. So I hold it like this, and I shuffle it like this. And it's gotten easier and easier for me. So if there's a deck that I really like, I will teach myself how to work with it. Now, I will say that when I'm thinking about cards and thinking about decks, or when I'm just sitting here sometimes thinking about questions, what I'm going to ask, I like to sit here and I like to shuffle. So that helps me think, it helps me stay focused, I enjoy it, it's relaxing, it's mindless, it's repetitive, but it gives you that focal point. So if you're using a deck like that, and I think that's where a lot of riffle shufflers come in with thicker decks, is they like to riffle shuffle. They'll sit there. I've heard, I think it was Lisa Papez I was watching, and she and Mystic Mindy were talking. I think it's Mystic Mindy. We're talking, and she said that she likes to sit there and just shuffle. And I could see why she wouldn't like a thicker deck, if that's how she likes to work with it. So it's subjective. It's going to depend on your taste. But if there is a deck, I would just say my suggestion to you is don't limit yourself. Have the decks that you know how to work with. They're easy to shuffle for you. You can use them to concentrate with. But if there's a deck that you like, if you like this one, then give it a shot. And don't work with it all the time. Just work with it enough every now and then to start breaking it in and to learn how to work with it the way you'd like. So that is my tip for today. Debray, very reasonably priced, usually around $24 US, give or take, on the deck. Victoria Ivanova, she's done a few decks for them, and I just absolutely love it. I'd like to thank Debray again for sending me these for review, and I would like to thank all the tarot tubers out there that have inspired me to record my journey with tarot, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, whatever it is, wherever you are.